Robert Plank Show, Episode 9. How to set up your own podcast and get your radio show published on iTunes before dinner time. Hi, this is DJ Dave, and I have a quick question. What if you could pick up a telephone and in just a few minutes broadcast your message to thousands of people or more? What if you could partner with Apple iTunes and publish your very own internet radio show or podcast 100% for free? You've come to the right place, because the #1 internet marketer from Turlock, California is about to knock your socks off. I'm so excited for you. Pay close attention right now to discover how to create your own podcast and make more money in the process. Close down all windows, turn your speakers up, and put your hands together for today's exciting installment of The Robert Plank Show. Here's Robert Plank.
Thank you, DJ Dave, for that very kind introduction. As always, I'm your host, Robert Plank. This is The Robert Plank Show, where we talk about making you money, making you more sales, getting you more traffic, more visitors, more exposure, making your life more easier, and making your internet business grow much more quickly. So today we're talking about podcasting, how to get your own radio show on the internet, and whether you are reading this off a transcript or you're listening to this on your device or listening in your on your computer, in your car, in your office, whether you're a first-time listener, long-time listener, this is a podcast, this is a radio show, and this is what you're listening to right now. And I want you to have the same things that I do, because it's not a competition. It's totally okay for me to be in my own little corner of the internet and have my raving fans, and for you to have your own raving fans, and for me to be happy for you, and for us to be happy for each other, and for us to, peacefully coexist in this huge, huge space called the internet. And one thing that I really want you to do and have in your business is to be everywhere. Here's what I mean. Far too many marketers are content with hiding, with being anonymous, with going, doing business under a business name, or calling themselves, Beltman Industries. No, use your real first and last name, because you're a personality. You look at like Suzanne Summers, Jillian Michaels, Ron Popeil, Jack LaLanne, these kind of people. They have really cool personalities, and they're recognized in their industry as the best in what they do. So you need to be the best in what you do as well, and you need to be everywhere. And that means a few things. That means that you need to have a website, and you need to have a blog, you need to have a product for sale, and you know what else? You should have some kind of a social media, a Facebook presence. You should have a book, and you know what? Heck, you should have a podcast as well. And, I hear all the time people saying that they wish they'd been around during the good old days of the internet, during the golden age when you could register any domain name you want. You can just run some ads, make some money. But you know what? It wasn't that great. It wasn't that well organized. And now it's awesome because it's free to make a website. It's free to make a Kindle book. Did you know that in order to get listed on Amazon, to sell your digital book, to have a Kindle book listed, you upload a Word document, you fill out a form, there is no cost to you. In order to have a physical book, a book on Amazon's company called CreateSpace, you know what you do? You upload a Word document, you fill in a form, you create your cover, and once again, it's free. And yeah, they take a cut because it costs them a few dollars to manufacture and fulfill and ship that book. But you also make what the money that's left over, and there's no deposit, there's no having a garage full of your books. The internet is an amazing place these days. Because of sites like Facebook, you can get massive traffic, and because of sites like Apple iTunes, and because of the rise in popularity of smartphones, of iPhones, of iPads, of Android phones, of tablets, everyone is connected to the internet all the time. And so you can have your own internet radio show, your own podcast, which means that whenever you have something to say, like I have something to say to you right now, you record it in audio format, put it on the internet, and all of these devices will automatically download that latest episode of the Whatever Your Name Is show. Pretty cool, right? And you and I are living in a really exciting time because this thing called podcasting, it actually has been around for a while. It was popular among all the nerds years ago and really went away. And now, because of the rise of smartphones, it's making a huge comeback. So when we're talking about a podcast, it means that you have basically audio files, right? You have episodes of your radio show available on the internet. Now, we're not talking about doing anything live or even committing to doing anything on a regular basis. If you record a 5-minute audio and go through the instructions I'll tell you in this podcast episode, if you just have one 5-minute episode, then you have a podcast. And that means that if someone searches for you on their phone, in iTunes, in Google, they will find that episode of your show. That means that when someone goes to your blog, they will be able to find that blog post, that audio file right there on your website. And so a lot of people think that, okay, well, if I have a website, if I have a blog, I have my online journal, and I can type text, I can add these text blog posts, and I'll record an audio speaking out that blog post. Or maybe the blog post will consist of bullet points, and I'll spend 5 minutes, I'll spend 20 minutes speaking out those bullet points and elaborating on them. So I'll have a blog post, I'll have an audio file, I'll put it online, boom, I have a podcast. Well, not quite yet. What makes a podcast really awesome is you go through these extra steps and people can click a button and now subscribe to your podcast. The first month of the Robert Plank Show being out, I had 2,200 downloads. Now that's not thousands, that's not millions, but to go from scratch, to go from nothing to 2,200 people have listened to my voice in those first 30 days is awesome, and I want the same things for you. So you create a blog, if you don't already have one. You record an audio show, and now you have the capability for people to subscribe to you, or if you don't want to commit to running regular episodes, that's fine. You can talk about different subjects. And now when someone is searching for beginning guitar advice, for kickboxing advice, for how to flip a house, even if you're only talking for a few minutes, and especially if you're recommending a URL, a link at the end, now this is a way for people to find you. And you know what else too? Everyone talks also about how the internet is so dang crowded. Everyone's on there. It's impossible to get heard. And back in the day, you could get away with just recording or typing out one article a week and you were fine. And now you have to have hundreds of articles because everyone's marketing with articles. Everyone's marketing with Google. There's so much noise. And what I always want to be doing is remain in my customers' brains. Right? I always want to stay in contact, and that's why I send emails on a regular basis. That's why I make blog posts, even though I can't directly measure the amount of money I make from something like a blog post or something like an audio podcast. I do it because I want to consistently keep in touch with people who haven't bought from me, and especially people who have bought from me, because I want them to keep buying from me again and again and again. So, you have to be consistent. You can't stay anonymous, and you can't sell $7 ebooks for a living. Have you heard of these things? This is nothing new, and for some reason it never goes away. But one of the first things that you hear about when you go online, or if you even have an existing business and you're looking for the internet to get more exposure, you hear about these things called short reports, $7 reports, and people say, well, you can put together a 10-page Word document, save it as a PDF, sell it for $7, and make a bunch of money. And it's true, you can. But that is the first thing you do. That's not the only thing you do. And I feel kind of bad. I get kind of sad when I see people who are stuck in the same place, internet marketing-wise, that they were 5-10 years ago. They're still trying to become a multimillionaire selling those $7 ebooks, those $7 reports. And like I said, you can have a nice quick payday from that, but you can't stay there. You have to have a real web presence. You have to build a list. You have to have some high-ticket products. You have to have consistent traffic. you need to be a coach. You need to be an authority in your marketplace, and running a podcast will really be one of the ways that you do it. You have to be everywhere. So wouldn't it be great if someone could find you from your affiliates marketing your product, from Google searches, from Facebook, and from this thing called iTunes and other podcast directories. We record our podcast shows, put them online every now and then, and now we're listed in iTunes. And now because we're listed in iTunes, Google then indexes the web pages that iTunes creates. So now we have extra links on Google as well. We can submit our podcast to other podcast directories. So now we have even more backlinks. We can market our podcast on Facebook. So now there's even more ways for people to find us. And now, just because you recorded this 5-minute or this 20-minute audio program, now you're in all kinds of places. Then you can get the podcast episode transcribed and use that as part of a book. Take that report and put that all over Facebook, put that on viral PDF sites, rebrand those reports for your affiliates, put them on your blog, and that way the words you speak out on your podcast get indexed on Google and bring people to your website. And so are you starting to see what we're doing here? We're putting out a bunch of content basically to go fishing so that people find us, and we basically catch these people who have a problem, who are looking for a solution. And I mean, if you've listened to earlier episodes of the Robert Plank Show, I've discussed with you things like how to write articles, how to write sales letters, how to get started on the internet. And so the idea here is that we're talking about all these subjects where I'm really excited and really passionate. I hope you can tell. And if someone is looking for how to set up a membership site, and they search that, whether that's on Google, Facebook, iTunes, whatever, I want them to find my podcast. I want you to find my podcast. I'm very happy that you found my podcast, and I'm happy to share with you all this information. Why? Well, because now you'll start listening to me as an authority, and I have the opportunity to what we call link drop different URLs. And by that, I mean that today's episode is sponsored by podcastcrusher.com. That's podcastcrusher.com. That's my program where I can show you exactly how to create and set up your own podcast. Because I'm giving you the basics right now here, but there's only so much we can do with a short audio program. Wouldn't it be great if I could show you all the screens, if I could show you how to submit your program to iTunes, how to record it on your computer, how to publish the various episodes, and how to avoid all the various pitfalls and things and places that you can go wrong. And I'll give you one right now. You don't want to host your podcast on your website. You don't want to host the actual audio files on your website. If you've heard about this thing called Amazon S3, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. It's a file storage service. You also don't want to host your podcast on this place called Amazon S3. Why? We'll get into that during the course. But making a podcast is kind of fun, and many people I know prefer it because it's easier to speak something out than to write out a blog post. And you know what? Whether you like it or not, your life or parts of your life are public on the internet because of social media such as Facebook and Twitter. If you're doing business on the internet, well, don't you want money? Don't you want sales? Don't you want traffic? Don't you want subscribers? Well, if so, then you better talk about what your niche is. You better share some advice. That way people have a way to find you, and even if they haven't yet bought from you, then at least you'll get some authority, and at least that way that they will trust you enough to listen to you more and eventually buy something. So I hope that you have a niche, you have a passion, you know what you want to talk about, and if you know anything about keyword research, if you know how to look in your website cPanel, what's called AW Stats, if you notice like what blog posts or what subjects or what subtopics are really, really popular in your niche or with your competitors or things you want to talk about the most, then record some shows about that. Now, so how do you record a podcast and audio show? Well, I've tried different lengths, and 20 minutes seems to work pretty well for me. I tried an hour. If you listen to earlier episodes, I've gone a little bit longer. I've gone about an hour long. And people prefer to listen to these episodes during a walk, a car ride. That's why I try to keep them to about 20 or 30 minutes, and you should too. So I have about, 4 or 6 talking points. I usually just have a list of bullet points about things I want to talk about. And if I'm running out of time, I'll skip over some or cut some short. And if I'm running short on time, I'll use those bullet points to keep me on track. I don't script things out, and you shouldn't either, because time is too dang short. And why are you going to write down every single dang word if you're just going to speak it out anyway? The point of speaking things out, the point of, using video to create products, things like that, is to save you time. Is to save you all that time you would have spent typing different things out. So what we do, and in Podcast Crusher, I'll show you all the steps here, but I'm recording this program right now on what's called a Logitech H530 headset. It costs about $30, and I like it just because it's a headset. The audio quality is pretty decent. It's not like a real big fancy microphone, but it does the job. It plugs right into your computer's USB port. That way you don't have to deal with a mixing board, a preamp. You plug it in and you go. I record the audio for this program using a program called Camtasia Recorder. And it's a $300 program. I use it because it records audio as well as video. And so it's really good practice for you because, you can have nothing on your screen and just plug in your headset and just talk and save just the audio and produce all that good stuff. But when it comes time for you to record a quick screen capture video where you show your screen, you talk, you show a few things, then you already will have the software. So Camtasia is $300. It has a 30-day trial. And if you really, really, really want to be a cheapskate, then just get a program called Goldwave. That's Goldwave. And that's a trial kind of program, and they'll keep popping up a little nag screen, but I'm pretty sure that Goldwave is 100% free. So, you plug it in, you hit the record button, and you just start talking. You treat it as if you're a live radio DJ. There's no chances here to stop and pause or stop and start over. Just talk about what it is you want to talk about. And you know what? If your first couple of podcast episodes are a little rough, that's fine. Just publish what you have, and you'll do better, and you'll grow next time. And you'll be glad you did. Because what if we record even just one short podcast episode per month, and after a year you look back and look at your early stuff, and you're like, whoa, I've come a long way from in the beginning where it was nervous, it was awkward, and as I worked that podcasting muscle, as I got better, I became a better speaker, a better announcer, my ideas made more sense, and on and on and on. So we recorded the Camtasia, and then in Goldwave we convert that audio into what's called an MP3 file. And what's really important here is that we add these things called ID3 tags. And so you can pretty much build in things like the name of your podcast, the name of your episode, even like the cover, like the graphic of this podcast. I don't know how you're listening to this, but if you're listening to this on a phone, a device, chances are you might see a picture of me or whatever logo we're using right now for the Robert Plank Show. We can build all that into the audio file, the MP3 file itself. Okay, so we record our program, and you know what? I'll add a little bit of music like in this episode, but for your first podcast episode, I don't have you add anything in. I have you just hit the record button, start talking, have a quick 5-minute lesson, and that's it, just to get you up and running, just to get you online, because we can always improve better. And I'd rather you have, over time, 100 different podcast episodes, because if you're a realtor and you have a podcast episode about flipping a house, about renting a house, an episode about reverse mortgages, an episode about, buying a house to live in, and you had it on all these different subjects, that's 100 different ways for people to come and find your blog, find your business, find your products, find out what you are all about. So we record our MP3 file, and we have to mess with a few ID3 tags, and then put it up onto a file storage service that's meant for podcasting. And what's really great about the file storage service that I use is that I can see all kinds of statistics. That's why I was able to tell you that my first month of having a podcast, I had 2,200 listens. So I'm able to see which of my podcast episodes are more popular than the other ones. I can see month to month, week to week. I can see geographic areas of where my podcast is more popular. I can see, well, how's my podcast doing in America or in Vietnam or in Canada or in Europe, and that comes into play later. But I store my files, and then I go over to my WordPress blog. By the way, if whatever your name is, if the .com, like robertplank.com, if that name is available, snatch it up right away. And you might be saying, well, I have a funny name. My name is kind of weird to spell. Well, great. Then your .com name is probably available. And if not, maybe like whatever your name is, marketing, or whatever your name is, lawyer, or whatever your name is, blog.com, I'm sure you'll find some combination that includes your name. And what you should do there is set up a thing called WordPress.org and set up a blog where whenever you have something to say, you can click a button, type it in, and talk. Now, there's a plugin, an add-on for WordPress that I use called PowerPress. And this is basically a podcasting plugin. And what you can do is, whenever you have a blog post, you can scroll down a little bit and say, you know what? Here is the audio file that belongs to this blog post. So when we make a new podcast episode, all we're really doing is we're making a post on our blog, putting the title of today's episode, like this episode is called How to Set Up Your Own Podcast and Get Your Radio Show Published on iTunes Before Dinner Time. So I'll make that a title of my blog. Like that'll be the title of the blog post which exists on my blog website, right? And I might have some bullet points about what today's episode is all about. We call those the show notes. I might put a transcript of that later on, but you don't have to. But, where we scroll down a little bit, we say, here is where you can find the audio that belongs to this blog post. And that is the audio that you listen to, or that your phone finds, or your whatever your computer finds when you want to listen to this episode. So we record in Camtasia, save in Goldwave, upload to my special super secret file storage service that we'll reveal inside of Podcast Crusher. Then on your blog, you install WordPress.org, install the PowerPress plugin, and that will add special invisible stuff so that when someone finds, or when you publish a new podcast episode, now they can find that one thing. And so what you do is you have all these things set up, and then you actually open up your iTunes program on your PC or on your Mac, and there's a special tab in the podcast area to submit what's called your podcast feed. And basically, let's just say that it's a list of all of your podcast episodes. And so you submit this to iTunes, takes, 2 or 3 days for them to approve it. And now, when you want to publish a new podcast episode, all you have to do is hit the record button, put on your headset, put it on your head, and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Drop in whatever links, like I've been dropping podcastcrusher.com this whole time. And when you're done, hit the stop button, save it, put your title and all that in your ID3 tags, make a new blog post, upload your audio, paste in the link to your audio in that blog post, and you're done. And if you want to do whatever you want to do, like post the link to Facebook, post a link to your email subscribers, that's fine. But anyone who now looks you up or looks up your show on iTunes will now see that new episode. And if anyone has subscribed to your podcast, and they can just do it by clicking the subscribe button in iTunes, well then I think it checks a few times a day. It will automatically download that new episode of your podcast, and so it'll already be on their device the next time they go for a drive, go for a walk. And I think depending on what software, which app, it might actually alert the person and tell them that you have a new podcast episode. So in Podcast Crusher, we take you from start to finish as far as I show you how to record it. We record an episode right in front of you. We set up all that website stuff. We submit it to iTunes. And then we have you do things like register a domain name, a $10 domain name, a new .com name just for your podcast. We have you set up a Facebook fan page for your podcast. So if someone wants to keep in touch and keep track of your latest episodes, not only can they subscribe in iTunes, but they can also click the like button on the Facebook fan page for your podcast, and whenever you have a new episode, you update them in that place as well. And we have you submit the podcast to different directories. We have you have a call to action in your podcast. Like, for example, if you go to robertplankshow.com, that's robertplankshow.com, you can find the fan page for the Robert Plank Show. Click the like button, and I will mention your name on the air. So lots of stuff there about podcasting. You need to do it. If you want traffic, if you want to become a recognized authority, if you want to be everywhere, market consistently, and stay in your customers' and your prospects' brains all the freaking time. As always, we went way over time, but that's fine. I enjoy contributing to your success. Please let me know how I'm doing by going to robertplankshow.com, leave a comment, make a post in there, and just give me a quickie testimonial or a quickie review, good or bad. I want to hear from you. I want to know exactly how you're doing. And I want to, most importantly, subscribe to your podcast. So join us right now at podcastcrusher.com. That's podcastcrusher.com. Get your own podcast set up and let us know where it ends up showing up. That's all from me today. That was how to set up your own podcast and get your radio show published on iTunes before dinner time, sponsored by podcastcrusher.com. Join us next week for episode 10 of the Robert Plank Show, how to set up a blog, create content, and become an instant celebrity. I can't wait to share my insight with you, and I can't wait to help you get to where you need to go. I'm Robert Plank. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great month, and have an excellent year.